Hi, and welcome to the Contract Manager Data Link training. In today's topics, we're going to cover encumbrance management, contract management, tracking contracts, purchase orders, invoice payments, open balances, what's being charged to the contract. We'll look at commodities charged to the specific purchase order or contract. We'll look at pre-encumbrances. We're going to take a look at the vendor customer certification and the vendor reference tables. And we'll take a look at some of the commodity code reference tables as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple contracts, purchase orders. We'll look at how they're encumbered, how much has been paid, and open a balance, along with how the particular contract or purchase order is set up to charge to a project ID, to a unit. So under the general accounting tab, we have a section called encumbrances and expenditures. And if you slide over, we have a page view called encumbrance by vendor. You select that page view, you're going to be given a couple options of how you want to see that information. With simply clicking the down arrow, you're going to see all the different ways to look at a contract. These first three views are only set up for accounting staff to track expenditures in a specific fiscal year. They're not set up based on budget fiscal year. So if you're tracking this as a budget contract manager, you want to stay within your appropriation category views or your BFY encumbrance project views. These are all of the different ways to look at it if you're tracking it by budget fiscal year. If you work in accounting and you're tracking contract amounts executed, paid vendors by transaction year, then you can use the 3 fiscal years. All right, so let's start at a very high level. I'm going to select this one called appropriation category, which is equal to budget fiscal year, contract summary. And when you open up that view, you do have a couple different filter options. But if you want to look at the entire contract by the document ID, simply type in the document ID under this section. And then if you know if it's a purchase order or a task order, type in the doc code there. Now I want to see the whole contract. I don't want to just see one budget fiscal year. So I want to delete this appropriation category. It does automatically default to the current year, but most of our contracts and purchase orders could be set up for 2 to 3 years or even longer, depending on the type of money. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and I'm going to go ahead and search for my contract. You simply hit the search button, and now what it does is it brings back the entire contract, and it talks about how much money is set up in the 21 year, the 22 year, and then this would actually be future year. And I know you can't see that it's future year. I'm going to show you another view in a few minutes of how you can see the future year. But this is the total contract. $202,000 was encumbered. To date, what's been paid is $57,006, and what's available is $145. Okay, so you can kind of see exactly what's going on by the appropriated category year, which would be equal to budget fiscal year. And we've got 2021, we had $10,000 available in that year, and the rest of it is sitting in the 21-22 year. And then eventually this is going to get moved out to future year. Okay, so let's look at the open balance amount. We still have 10,000 available with closed amount. Now, if you want to see more information about the closed amount, maybe you want to see what invoice was paid, you simply drill down, which you click once. It'll give you the PRC that made the payment, the date that it was paid on 2/25. If I slide over here to the right, it's going to give you the invoice date, the invoice number, how it actually paid against state funds, what program elements, what unit paid for it. Here's the unit number, what object code was it. So all of your accounting details, your journal is going to be down here on the accounting drill down. And you can see that we paid $57,006, okay? All right, so that particular row for current year or last year's money, we still have available $10,000. And then again, next year, for current year, I should say, we have an open balance of 67,006. All right, now let's take a look at this a different way. Okay, so again, this is a very high level. Now, if you're managing multiple contracts as a contract manager, maybe you don't want to look at this by document ID. Maybe you want to track all of your encumbrance contracts by a specific unit, a division. So if I'm in District 11, I can pick that. And within District 11, maybe I want to pick all my contracts for the Division of Maintenance. I can do that. I could pick the division, and then within division of maintenance, I could actually pick an actual unit. So let's see if we can find one. I'm just looking here. I'll just pick one that I might know. No, sometimes it's hit or miss here. So if you don't know the specific number, unit number, you can search if you want, or you can simply just search. And what it's going to do is it's going to go find all of the contracts for District 11. Now, because I took out the appropriation category, I'm actually going back a little bit too far. I'm going as far back as 2010, and we know that most of those contracts have been encumbered and expended already. But if you want to do maybe a 3-year look, maybe you want to look at last year, you could say, I want 19, 20, comma, 2021, comma, and then 21, 22 for current year. So you can use the filter to get 3 years worth of contracts and do a quick search this way. If you're tracking encumbrances for a specific project, you can use the project filter. Maybe you want to search on all contracts with a specific object code. You can search this way. Maybe a specific appropriation, you're tracking SB1 or Clean California. Whatever you're trying to look for, use your filters, elements, capital 2010, maintenance 2080, traffic ops 2070. Use your elements to, your filters to pick a particular program, a district, a division, a unit, an object code, a project. And it's going to limit the number of rows that come back, okay? So here you can see we've got a mix of different contracts and purchase orders, including CalCard. Now, CalCard is a little bit different because it actually encumbers and expends typically in the same month. So it's not an encumbrance that you're trying to track over a year or 3-year period. But you can exclude CalCard if you don't want it in your results. You can simply use the doc ID and type in CT, comma PO, comma task order, and limit your search that way, and it'll exclude the CPOs. And that way you'll get less rows to export to Excel, and you can focus on exactly what purchase orders are still open with balances. For example, this one, City of El Centro, has an open balance for the 21-22 money. Looks like there's still an open balance of 28,185. You've also got a purchase order here for 60,000. Nothing's been paid to date. So you can see you still have an open balance here. So you want to use your filters to get to the right information. Now, if you need more details about this particular contract or purchase order, you can simply take the purchase order number, you can highlight it, right click, open it, and you can copy this. Makes it a little easier when you're typing. And maybe you want to take it to a different view that has a little bit more details. You can go down a level. Maybe you want to add unit to it. You can do that. Now you're adding the unit level to it. So I'm going to get rid of the rest of this stuff since I know I'm looking for a document now. You can delete the rest. Okay. And this one only has the one row, but it added the unit number to it. Okay. So now it's telling me what unit owns this particular PO. And maybe you want to go down a little bit further. Maybe you want to bring in the vendor information. You want to see a little bit more information there. So we know this is a PO. Anything that has a little red squiggly line, you got to put something in, additional information in there. So let's clear that out for a second. That was on the vendor contract summary. Doc code PO, doc ID, search. Okay, and now it brought in the vendor information as well. Again, it's just showing you different ways, higher level, lower level details. Now my favorite view happens to be this one down here, which is the project phase summary. This one is actually going to give you all the details. So I'm going to delete the appropriation category because I have my purchase order number. I want to see everything about this PO. Let's let that run. And if you can see down here, we're going to see the appropriated category, which is the same as budget fiscal year. Now, the only time you will not see budget fiscal year, appropriation category is if it's a future year, because we don't have an appropriation until that July 1st of that year that it's going to be available. But you will see budget fiscal year as somebody has typed in the RQS document. They've actually set up the accounting lines to say so much in this year, so much in next year, and they've identified it by budget fiscal year. So anytime you see a contract with future year, you're going to see the future year that it should hit, and your appropriation category will be blank. And I'll try to show you that in a few minutes when we look at other contracts. But this particular PO, we can see, is a maintenance purchase order with the California Veteran Supply. It looks like it's going to hit two project ID numbers, 381 and 380. And it's going to be the same units, okay, same type of money, same color of money. Two different object codes though, object code 146 and 044. So this purchase order was set up with two accounting lines. And then you'll notice each accounting line is set up with the different dollar amounts, so 55.7 and 4,400 for a total purchase order of 60,210. And then as I've mentioned, there's been nothing paid. So let's use a different contract so we can see how this one looks. My contract that I use quite often, Tempo Software. You can use the wildcard to find your contracts or purchase orders. If you know all of the zeros, it's easier to type them in so that you don't get something different. But in this particular case, I can see that I have a PO set up, 98. It's set up to set up as maintenance and also some additional bucket hours. I'm also splitting this purchase order between two districts, District 81 Accounting and District 20 IT. And so you're going to see all of this split money out, okay? And as I was mentioning before, if you have a contract or purchase order with future year, you're going to see for the 2023 year, there's going to be some money, 2023, but we don't have an appropriation category, okay? So all the split out here, the different phases that are used, etc. All right. And then you're going to see, again, how much was encumbered by year, by line, what's been paid, what's still considered future. Here's future year encumbrance, 57,010, depending on who's paying for what. And then the closed amount on this current row here says that for the 2021 year, again, just like I showed you before, we've paid out 57,006. I could see the invoice number if I drill down on the closed amount, just like before. It's going to show me the invoice number and the invoice date. Scroll back. And then I have an open balance still available. That line was completely paid out, but I do still have available money on this second row for the current year, 21-22. I haven't paid the invoice yet, so that money is still sitting there. And I also have some additional contingency money for bucketed hours still sitting in this current year as well. So it's really easy to use this report as pretty much everything. That's why this one's my favorite. You can get everything. You can take this out to Excel. When you take it out to Excel, you can then pivot it. Maybe you pivot it by units or you pivot it by division. Maybe if you're a district encumbrance manager, you're going to run the entire district and maybe an entire division. Who knows? But you can then get the data out to Excel and simply use your pivot tables to, to filter out your information. You can also use this as a contract manager. You can print this out and put it in your file as current open balance as of a certain date. Now I am going to show you our document payment chain that gives you a list of all the invoices that have been paid against your contract with the date, the claim schedule number, and even potentially a check number from SEO. And I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. That is another great tool to print out and put into your contract manager folder. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at what else is available on this particular view for filtering. So as I mentioned before, if you wanted to search on a specific district, let's go ahead and type in District 2. Just pick it on different districts here. Maybe I want to look at all of Capital 2010, Capital Outlay Support. And maybe I want to only look at current year. So I only want to look at 21-22 money. And as soon as I put something in the red boxes, it's going to go away. Okay. District 2. Why is that red box not going away? There we go. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit search and minimize. Okay. We're going to go ahead and let that load. So I'm asking for a specific district and I asked for everything, right? Now, again, like I mentioned, if you don't want the cal card in there, let's go ahead and go back and get rid of those. We're going to put in CT, comma, purchase order, comma, task order, and then search again and get rid of those cal cards because those, again, like I mentioned, they encumber and they expend in the same month. So we don't want to track the encumbrances that way. All right. So now you can kind of get a list of all of your contracts in District 2 for capital and with any budget money. Now this is a great one if you're going to be using this for lapsing appropriation. We do have a lapsing appropriation contract view. I will try to circle back to that in a little bit. But if you're managing older encumbrances and you want to make sure that everything gets paid, maybe you want to go back and put an older year. Maybe you want to look at 1819 and see if there's any open balances that you need to make sure it gets paid. Follow up with the contract manager if you're the budget resource manager, making sure. So in this case, there's nothing there. Let's try 1920, which I'm not sure what year is going to lapse in June. It might be 1920. So we'll look at 1920. So you have a couple contracts that are still with open balance, not much, about $48,000. And so if you were managing these resources as a resource manager, you're going to be working with your contract manager and saying, hey, you have a task order out there with 20 money. Are you going to be using it? It's $9,000, or should you liquidate those funds? You can see that there has not been any payments made, nothing. And you can see over here, nothing's been paid. So you might want to follow up on that particular contract. And then this one, the last payment was just made on 9/14. Looks like there's still open balance of 864. But maybe this particular purchase order just made the last payment. And we would want to follow up and make sure, hey, if we know that there's not going to be any more payments coming through, can this $800 be disencumbered? Okay. So use your filters to get to different answers quickly. Again, if you were looking at this from a project perspective, maybe you want to search all project IDs with a particular project ID in mind. I'm going to just pick one here, plug this in, and go ahead and search this way. And then it's going to pull all contracts that are using this project ID. Maybe this project ID is going to be shut down soon, and you want to make sure that all your encumbrances have been liquidated against that project ID. Maybe it's a phase 4. I don't know. I picked the wrong project ID to use as an example. But use your project ID filter to make sure that everything is encumbered correctly and cleared out, liquidated correctly before any projects get shut down and turned off. Okay, let's go ahead and take a different topic now. Okay, so we took a look at some of the purchase orders and contracts and how the PO and contract is split out by all the payment attributes. But now we want to take a look at maybe the entire contract and the history of payment. So let's go back to general accounting, slide back down to encumbrances and expenditures, and let's open up document chain search. So with any information that you have, maybe you have the RQS number, but you don't know the PO number. You can use this view, and you would type in your requisition RQS code here, and then the doc ID. Or if you know the order number, which is your doc ID, contract, or purchase order, and I know mine here, so I'm going to use this contract this time. You can use the contract order view. Again, mine's a PO. If yours is a CT, you can type in CT. If you are looking for payment information, maybe you don't know the CT or the doc ID, but you know the invoice number. Maybe a vendor has called you and is looking for payment. You can type in the vendor invoice number and the vendor name. You can search for payment. Or if you know the automatic disbursement, you know that accounting has paid an actual AD document. Again, you have a warrant number, a check number, something to that effect, you can search. What each view does, it will pull the entire string together. That's why it's called the accounting document chain. And what it does is it goes from RQS to a payment request, which is a PRC. The PRC becomes an AD. Well, let me back up. The RQS becomes a CT or a PO or a task order. Then when you make payments against those CTs, POs, task orders, you're doing a PRC payment. And then that PRC payment becomes an automatic disbursement. And then it goes to state controllers. So let's take a look at my contract and it will make a little bit more sense here. So this contract, oops, let me put in my doc ID, search. Payment, oh, I need to be under order contract, there we go. Okay, so this is one contract that I've had in the past, and I wanna maybe print this out in the file as the contract manager. I just wanna keep all my records in one place. This is a great report to do that because you can export it to Excel, you can export it to PDF. Okay, so here you can see all of the payments that have been made. I can put this in sort order. If I want to do it by record date, you just click it. It'll put it in ascending or descending order. You can also use the drop-down arrow and choose ascending or descending order, whichever you prefer. What it's going to do is just put it in the last payment date order. While that's thinking, I'm going to let you see some of the document information. So if we can see the payment check information from state controllers, which in this case, we do have the check warrant number, not all vendors come back from state controllers with a warrant number. So if it's blank, we just don't have it. If we have that information on what's called the CHI document that comes on an interface back from state controllers, we can actually see that information. We can see the date that it was issued, the amount. It'll actually give you the Advantage AD Doc ID number, claim schedule number, invoice number, how it's tied to the PRC document ID number. And then if we keep scrolling backwards, you'll see that this is obviously tied to this purchase order number and that the original RQS was this number here. So from the beginning to the end of payment, this is the entire life cycle of this contract. I can see it went from RQS to a PO to a payment to an AD document, and then eventually a check was cut. So when you have vendors calling you as a contract manager trying to track down an invoice, this is a great place to come to and check to see if an actual check has been executed by the state controller's office. You could tell them, hey, we cut the check on 8/11. You should have your check within a few days, okay? And then, like I mentioned, you can download this to Excel or you can download it to PDF and print and put it in your records. So feel free to search whatever information you have and start there, but just know that it will find all those other pieces and pull it all back together. All right, so that's a little bit about our document chain. I want to go back now, talk a little bit more about the encumbrance by vendor page, because we only covered a couple of views in there. So let's go back and look at a couple more things. So originally, we looked at this one by project and phase. Now, this is what we would call a project encumbrance. Current year project encumbrance is a posting code 6150. If you're not familiar with any of your posting codes, you can click on the help content. It will tell you what's considered a program encumbrance versus a project encumbrance, future year encumbrance, future year program encumbrance. They all have different posting codes. And what we have is the calculations here of how we define and what we're adding together to consider a total document, a future year document, open balances, and whatnot. So you can find all of the information here, what's a project and what's a program. So under this view here, we were looking at project base, which would be any contract or purchase order that has a project ID associated to it. Now, there are going to be some times where you do a contract where you don't know what the project ID is going to be just yet. Then it becomes what we call a program encumbrance. The program, meaning 2010 capital outlay support, maintenance, traffic, admin, whoever's paying for this contract wants to set money aside in a program so that the encumbering document is there and it's executed. And when we know what project ID we want to use, what will happen is the contract manager will disencumber from a program view and encumber to a project. And so if you don't see all of the money on a particular contract, or you're looking for something specific and you can't find it, you might want to check the program encumbrance, okay? Now, program encumbrance, if I was to just take a look here, this is statewide. This will give me a look of all the contracts that have what's called program encumbrance money. No project ID. We don't know what's going to be used, but we've set aside some money. Most of this is going to be on task orders for A&E. As you can see, 232, 232, and you can see all the task orders. So we're setting money aside, and as we know what we're going to pay, we disencumber to the contract and encumber to the project ID. And what will happen is the program encumbrance dollars will go down, and then your project encumbrance contract will show up over here as encumbered. So between the two, you should be able to find what you're looking for. So feel free to take a look at program encumbrances. If you're managing a budget, resource manager in the district, and you need to track both project encumbrance and program encumbrance, make sure that you are looking at your district specifically. Maybe you just want current year. How much money do I have sitting out there as a program that I'm responsible for as a resource manager? You know, $190,000 that's sitting out there that's technically tied up in an encumbrance, but that has not been used to pay any bills because there's no project ID established to it. Okay, so that's the difference between project encumbrance and program encumbrance. Now we also have pre-encumbrance as well. Maybe you've just done an RQS in the district and you haven't seen it actually executed yet to a purchase order. So what you can do is search for your district to see what's available in the pre-encumbered. And I'm going to show you our pre-encumbered dashboard as well. But we do have a small view here that lets you see the RQS and the PO, object code. What is it going to charge to? Who owns it? The division, the unit, and then the budget fiscal year. And you can see how much has been pre-encumbered. Now, as this pre-encumbered works its way through to a CT or a PO, this will liquidate the RQS, and it will show up then as either a program encumbrance or a project encumbrance, depending on how that RQS is set up. Okay, so as a resource manager managing, you want to keep an eye on your pre-encumbered, make sure that things are liquidating out of pre-encumbered, which is posting code 6155, and making sure that that entire RQS executes over to a purchase order or a contract or a task order correctly, and that everything gets liquidated. Okay. So again, using your filters, program 2010, 2080, whatever you're searching for, project ID, phase, object code, maybe a specific appropriation, SB1, clean California money, whatever you're trying to search for, use the various views to find the right answer to your question that you're looking for, okay? We have a contract funding report. This is more just for what's the classification, what type of funds is it. This is more, how is it going to be paid kind of a look. Again, slightly different. We're focusing now on appropriation and fund, okay? And there's lots of other views in here that you can take a look. So feel free to play around with each view. Each view will have a different set of filters. Each view will have a different way of summarizing the data in the results grid. And just find the view that works the best for you. And then, of course, like I've mentioned, take everything out to Excel. You can pivot it, slice it, send it off to other people. You can save your inquiry if this is, one that you're always going to use. This one's going to be your favorite. Simply just click on the Save Inquiry button, give it a name, decide if this is something that you want to schedule. Scheduling is coming in the next 2 weeks or so. So right now we do have it available for certain staff as we're testing it out, but you will be able to schedule these if you want to check this daily, weekly, monthly. Accounting period close doesn't really matter for encumbrances, so I wouldn't worry so much on encumbrances per se, but definitely if you want to check it monthly, you can do a save inquiry or a weekly. You can decide here how you want to do that. You would just give it a name, give it a title, and say, okay, save it, and then it would be found under your saved inquiries tool under the user tools. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and now take a look at the encumbrance dashboard. Okay, let's go and look at the encumbrance dashboard. We have the encumbrance dashboard and we also have a pre-encumbrance open and close. So we'll take a look at both of these. All right, encumbrance dashboard. This kind of lets you look at this from a 3-year perspective. We want to always manage last year's money, current year money, and future year. We want to make sure that last year's money is getting used first and foremost before we use current year. And then future year, if we don't think we're going to be using all of it, we want to liquidate it. So let's take a look at a district here. Let's pick on District 5 today. Now, when I start with appropriation category 2122 and apply the settings, what's going to happen is it knows automatically to start the 2020, 21, 22 year and then go forward, okay? So if you want last year, you want to look at last year's, then you want to look at last year. You want to say 2021, okay? So depending on how you want to look at this. All right. So what this is doing is it's saying, hey, how much money do I have left in the 2021? How much was actually encumbered? How much was, document amount, encumbered, and closed. So you can see the total contracts, 368 million. And this includes all contracts, including capital construction contracts as well. If you are only looking for a specific, support money, maybe you just want to look at 2010 support only and not worry about capital. Use your filters to apply the settings and get a new result. So see, dramatically that went down. So you've got total document encumbered for last year, um, 2021, and then 15,000 is still available and 18,000 was closed. You can use your charts and graphs here to, you know, turn things on and off. Like if you don't want to see what was actually closed, you just want to see what was actually still available, then you can turn those on. So use your charts interactively. And what it's saying is that you've got last year and this year. For District 5, they don't have any, uh, well, I take that back. You do have future year. Let's take that back out. You do have future year, but because future year doesn't have an appropriation or a program or anything tied to it just yet. Oh, actually, I take that back. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Actually, there it is. It's a very small window. Now, see, it's really small. You can actually hover over it and make it bigger. See if I can get in there. It is really tiny. There we go. We can get it a little bigger. Budget fiscal year 2023, it looks like they've got some future year money. Again, that includes capital, the 2.5. The problem with looking at future year and your program, as I mentioned, because we don't know what the charging is going to be just yet because it's future year, there's no attributes available, no fund appropriation program element, none of that is available for future year. But we know based on the budget fiscal year what's going to be coming down the pipeline for the 2023 year. So if you want to reset this back, you just hit reset button and puts the chart back. So let's go ahead and focus on just current year support, apply that setting, and or last year and this year. So you always want to be using last year's money first. Looks like open amount looks like there's about 17,000 left. So if I just kind of, I can look for it this way and I can see, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. You can sort it descending if you want. It'll sort it the other way. Put the largest amount on top. You know, 10,000 was a partial payment, University Enterprises, and it's a task order. So again, if you're the contract manager or the resource manager for District 5 or District 3, whatever you're working on, you want to be working with your contract managers to make sure that, hey, before this $10,000 lapses or needs additional, you know, disencumbering of funds, you want to make sure that this 10,000 is going to get used. Just have those conversations with your contract managers if you're the resource manager. And if you're the contract manager, you want to make sure that you're getting your vendors to bill you on time to get them in. Prompt Payment Act, 45-day Prompt Payment Act as the contract manager, making sure you get those invoices over to accounting so they can get to SEO so they can be paid. Gives you a little bit more of a real-time, up-to-date information on what's available on your contract. Okay. All right, so that's the encumbrance dashboard. Let's take a look at pre-encumbered dashboard. All right, let's pick on District 12. Let's try a new district here. How much is pre-encumbered in District 12? So this is just going to be an easy way for you to kind of make sure that things get liquidated out, you know, properly. If there's any open balance, you want to make sure and follow up. Obviously, this one was just executed on 9/27, but maybe you want to look at some older ones. We can put this again in open amount. So 4.5, this one was just executed in June, so maybe it's still going to be out there for another 4 or 5 months, depending on, you know, how long it takes to execute a contract. But maybe you want to look at some older contracts. Let's do this by record date, maybe. Let's go descending here on record date. Oh, wrong. Let's go the other way. Okay, so obviously these are very old. We have no time parameter on here, so it's going to go all the way back to 2010. So let's see, here's $67 from 2010. So you could obviously look at what happened with this particular one. Why did it not become a purchase order? Maybe somebody created an RQS and then never canceled it. Those encumbrances will sit out there as unliquidated. Most likely it's lapsed, and so we don't have to worry about some of this really old stuff. So again, if you want to focus more just on more of the current, let's go the other way again, more of the current stuff that maybe has been 6 months or older, and you want to track some of that to make sure that it's liquidated. Let's see if we can go back a little further. This is all May. This one's been out there since May. That's still only 4 months for a contract that's still within the normal time range here. This one was back from February. So, you might want to take a look at this one and say what happened. In February, we pre-encumbered 27,000, but we closed 25. So maybe we forgot to liquidate the rest um, of this RQS when it became a purchase order or a contract. And I've seen that happen as well. So use this report more of a cleanup tool, more just like as an anomaly. Hey, this is something I need to look at as a resource manager or a contract manager. Why did the RQS not fully move over to a purchase order or a contract amount? And then why was this open balance not liquidated? So again, you can work with your encumbrance person out of accounting if you need help. But that's just there for you. If you have additional questions, reach out to your headquarters encumbrance accountant that deals with your contract vendor by alphabetical. Okay. All right. I'm going to switch over to a new topic. Let's go ahead and look at more of a master agreement and also a contract reconciliation process. Okay, let's take a look at our contracts and reconciliation with the receiving record. All right, to find the contract PO reconciliation, it's located under the Procurements tab called Contracts PO Reconciliation Summary. Now, not all contracts have receiving records, but if you plug in your contract and it has any RC documents, you'll be able to see how many RCs have been processed, along with how many PRC payments have been processed as well. Let's take a look at a contract. I'm going to use District 4, District 4, A5908A. So whatever contract ID you're using, go ahead and plug it into the Doc ID section and then hit the search function. Once you've found the contract, what you're going to see is the last time we made a payment, how many documents in total have been processed, and the amount, so the document amounts and the closed amount and any available contract amount that's still available. So let's drill down on this. So on the document amount, I'm going to click on the 80,000. It's showing me that we've closed 23 receiving documents, but we've only paid 21. So let's click on the 23 receiving document counts. This is going to give you a list of all the RC documents that have been processed. So here's the RC doc ID. It tells you the line amount, the receiving line amount, the payment, the vendor, and then each amount that was paid. And of course, it tells you that it was partial payment, partial payment, partial payment. So you can get a really good look at what the receiver looked like, and then of course, based on the record date. Feel free to take this to Excel or to PDF, download it, and then filter it however you want to in Excel. So if I go back to the summary, it looks like there was 23 records. I put these in record date. Okay, with let's look at the latest one actually. Let's sort by record date. Looks like, oh, it puts it in the fiscal year. Let's do it the other way. 21. So 21, the last payments that were made looks like it was August of this year. Okay. Now these RCs were submitted on August 30th. And then what we can do is we can reconcile to see for this particular RC, has an actual RC been paid. So 2,205.75 was submitted. And let's go back to summary. And we're going to look at the closed document. So we can see that there's a difference of 2, right? We've processed 23 receiving records, but only 21 payments have been made. Let's click on the payment amount. Let's go ahead and do a sort also. And we would want to see how come we don't show, oh, this is the PRC payment, sorry. So you've got the PRC date. What you would need to do to reconcile the two is search by invoice number and see which ones haven't been cleared. So you can look at the invoice number and the payment amount. Does this invoice number 19 go with the receiving record? Let's see and find the invoice number here. Oh, here's the invoice numbers in here, right? So what you would want to do is download this file, download this file, and then do your quick analysis of what invoices are still being processed for payment, okay? So there's not much to this contract PO reconciliation process, but we do like to be able to let you see what's still kind of in transition. And then you can follow up with your accountant to follow up on a specific receiving record that maybe is still in process and it's been a week or two. Maybe you need to follow up with it. And then the other thing that you can do as well is you can see what payments have actually already gone to SCO with the document payment chain, which I will show you. I think actually I showed it to you guys earlier in the video. So you can reconcile also with the encumbrance document payment chain so that you can see everything that's gone all the way through to SCO. So if you're really trying to make sure that your contracts have all been paid in a timely manner, which ones are still in process, and making sure that we're staying within the 45 Prompt Payment Act, you would use kind of the 3 different views: document closed RC, document closed PRC, and then you can take it over to the document chain and look and see all the payments under the order. Let me plug in that contract that have already gone to the AD side over to state controllers to be issued a check. And that's just a really great way to finalize that the payment's already gone out to the vendor, so that you can make sure that your contract is up to date, your vendor is paid, and that we don't have anything kind of just sitting out there waiting to be processed. And so it'll list here all of the automatic disbursements that tie to that PRC payment as well. You have the invoice information, the payment date, record date. So that's a little bit about the procurement reconciliation. Again, there's not much to it. It's just another tool for you to use as a contract manager to look at all of the RCs that go to the PRCs. Some contracts, as I mentioned, don't even use the RC at all. They just go directly to a PRC. So if you see a contract and you don't see any RC documents, it just means that your contract doesn't need to go through the RC process through Advantage. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our next topic. Okay, well, our next topic, since we're in the procurement tab, we're going to go ahead and talk now about the contract commodity detail. This report is very unique to showing what was purchased, who purchased it, all of the description information. So you have lots of different ways to filter on this contract view. So I'm going to open up these windows here, these little drop downs, so you can see all the potential filters that we're able to filter by. So do I want to filter by my doc ID? Sure, we can do that. Do I want to search by a division, a district, a unit, a project ID, phase, object code, reporting code, issuer, like who actually issued the PO, who actually requested the PO, lots of different ways. But let's just take a look using this contract ID um, that we were using. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the details have. Now, since I'm looking at the contract, what I want to do is I want to delete my award to and from because I want to look at everything for this contract. I'm going to go ahead and hit search. And anytime you hit search and not search and minimize, you can just collapse your panel. And then if you want your panel back open, you can open it again. All right. So this contract or PO was with Hertz Rental. It looks like we bought some moving message signs. We put some additional information, commodity description, their equipment rental, and then it just goes on and on. The descriptions can go out forever. So feel free to just use the little toggle button in between and drag it open so you can read the extended description of what was purchased. Lots of really good information in there. This tells me that it routed to unit 0975 for approval. It charged to 01975, I'm sorry, 0975, which is the division of maintenance. And it looks like we also charged to this project ID 276 with phase N. We used object code 007. We, let's see what else, what information is in here. We put in the billing DGS code. Here's the issuer. Looks like issuer Brian Lopez. And his S number looks like Adam Steger. And for the amount of $80,000. Okay, so now let's take a look at some other ways of looking at this same report, but maybe for different information. Okay, maybe I'm interested in looking at what the entire district purchased. Let's start with something, we'll start with a smaller district. So start with District 1. Now, I do want to look at just this year. So the award from and to, unfortunately, isn't an exact science of budget fiscal year as we would know traditionally as July 1. We may end up picking July 1st as our award date, but the contract might have been executed in June 30th, even though it was going to be spent this year. So unfortunately, if you're looking for something specific, you might have to take your dates out and use your doc ID. But I'm just going to give you a general overview of what has been awarded since July 1st, okay? So I'm going to go back to July 1, and we'll leave it to current date, which is today. District 1, and again, if I was very specific, I could look at a unit, I could look at everything that was purchased by a division, I can look at everything that's been purchased for a project, a phase. I can search the whole district on a specific object code. Maybe I want to see all IT purchases for my district or division. And then the last information is maybe I want to search for a specific, issuer like Brian. Show me all POs, contracts, CPOs, everything that Brian's done in the last year, etc. So again, use your filters, commodity codes, different vendors, search for vendor to find the type of information, including if you're looking at just goods or services. And then there's your commodity codes as well, the categories, or if you know the commodity number. Lots of really good stuff. So I'm going to do a search this time on all of District 1 so you can kind of get a feel for other things that are relatable in this report. So I'll let that load really quick. And I'm going to show you some other hidden columns that are also available that you can turn on and turn off. This report is pretty big. It's pretty detailed. So sometimes you may want additional information that's not here when you first see it. And maybe there's things that you don't want to see in here, and you can what we call hide and unhide some different filters. Or I shouldn't say filters, columns of data before you export it to Excel. All right, so it's looking for current year. All right, there we go. So let's back up here. All right, so obviously it's going to show me the vendor name, commodity codes that were purchased. It's going to give me the line description. And then here we get a little bit more information on the commodity extended description. So we bought asphalt, but then we get very specific, the type of half-inch HMAC, the blanket purchase order, or maybe asphalt to be delivered to a specific location. What else do we see in here? Samsung LT network extenders. You can see all kinds of stuff. So whatever you type on the RQS or that's going to become a purchase order is going to feed into this report. It is going to break it out by accounting line or a commodity code line. So for every commodity code that you have entered on your document, that's going to be available to see here as well. Okay, so let's look at project IDs, like what is it charging? And then it's going to tell you all of your object codes as well, like I mentioned. The document, is it CalCard, is it PO, all kinds. What kind of procurement type is it? Is it, and you can turn these other things on if you don't know what they are. So let's turn on some things that are hidden. So if you just open up the column and slide to columns here, maybe you want the commodity code description, okay? Maybe you want to know the quantity, the unit of measure, the unit price. If it's a contract and it has service to and from dates, you can turn that on. I will tell you though, just because I've seen from experience that sometimes the service to and from dates on a contract are different from the actual executed contract, because sometimes you put start and end dates on your RQS and it doesn't always copy forward and get the exact service to and from once it's been created as a CT or a PO. I've also seen where sometimes a commodity line 1 and a commodity line 2 has 2 different dates. So I would be very cautious when using these service to and from dates. You really need to go back to the PO that was executed as your final award date and not rely necessarily on the RQS service to and from dates, because we don't know. I don't know for sure if they are 100% accurate based on the actual signed, approved PO or CT through the DPAC process and after the vendor has actually executed, okay? So just be cautious of that. Things that maybe you don't want to see, like, let's see, there's all kinds of stuff in here. Maybe you want to turn, let's see, well, maybe you want the object code description, but maybe you don't care about the reporting code. Maybe you don't care about other things that are in here. Let's see, let's go through this list. If you just see this little downward arrow, it's really hard to see, but it's down here. You click on it and there's more stuff. You can see lots of other stuff in here. Okay, cited authority, issuer email, phone number. So again, take things on and off by the clicking and make your report your own. It's got the vendor information, the vendor address, all kinds of stuff. Once you turn things on and off, as long as you're signed in up in the top right corner with your S number, you can do a saved inquiry if that's how you like to see your data all the time. Just make sure to redo this filter again, make sure you're signed in, and if once you're signed in, there's a little button that says save inquiry. You can save your information. Okay, so there's all kinds of information that you can put in here. Now I want to show you how to look at one PO at a time. So I'm just going to go up here and I'm just going to look at one PO, and I'm going to hit take this out, dates, and search. Okay. So looking at one PO at a time, this is basically going to be a replica of the entire AMS Advantage look, commodity line by commodity line, but all of the details in one report that's easy to export to Excel versus having to go to Advantage and go on commodity line, open up the accounting lines and see what it charged to and all that other stuff. So this just makes it really easy to take to Excel. So this is all one purchase order. And you can see we're going to have multiple commodity lines, battery chargers, mobile phones, face plates, headphones, sales tax, right? So imagine that looking in Advantage, what the PO looks like, but then you would have to click on each row to see all the details, right? Well, here you have all the details. I bought 4 of these and 12 of those and XYZ, right? And again, all the charging information. What did I charge? Imagine your PO had multiple project IDs and multiple object codes. So you would see all those details for this entire purchase order. It says that it was awarded on 9/17. Stacy Miller was the issuer and the requester was Gail. The total PO was 1,197. Okay, so you're going to be able to see what the commodity line was from Advantage, and this is up to date as of yesterday. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what was purchased, who purchased it, what does the PO look like with all the descriptions, the unit price, the quantity. But prior to actually doing a purchase, if you're not 100% positive which commodity code to use on your order for either service or purchasing, you can use our reference table under commodity. Slide down and open that up. You can do a search and you can see all of the commodity code numbers and what each one is. And let's say you are interested in purchasing an IT mouse for a computer. What you could do is you could search for mice star, right? And it's going to give you that. Or you can search for mouse star. See the difference? The mouse is going to be tied to the computer, whereas mice star is literally mice. And of course, MICE also will come in with the search what if it's fall into a specific word. So be very careful when you're using and searching for your commodity codes. If you're not positive, maybe just start doing a quick search to see what's available. Oh, I want to buy a mouse for a computer. Okay, well, do you want a keyboard mouse? Do you want a computer mouse trackball? Do you want a mouse pad, a mouse wrist rest? Each one has a different commodity code. So you have to be really careful because a lot of these commodity codes are tracked and we start to look and see what was actually purchased. So yeah, just use this to look up stuff. You can export it to Excel if you want. These don't typically change at all unless we get a new update, and we'll update the new one whenever DPAC gets a new file. We can push out the old file and bring in a new file, but these shouldn't change very often. So feel free to use your wildcards when you're looking for something specific under the commodity code table. And then we do also have a procurement dashboard. So I'll show you that really quick. So if you want to search for your district, we'll pick on District 4 this time. And let's go ahead and get District 4. Oh, these tables, there's about 6 or 7 different charts. So let me get that to load really quick, and then we'll pick District 4. Enter, actually I can do that, and then apply the settings. Okay, so it's going to find District 4, and then while it's loading all the charts, you see there's only a few things to filter. Do you want to look at a commodity type, or do you want to look at all commodity types, goods, services, or other? So you've got types and categories. So let's let everything load here. And then here's the commodity category. So those commodity numbers all roll up to a commodity category. So when we were looking at a mouse pad, a mouse trackball, all of that would be roll up to a specific commodity category. Okay, so use your filters to what you want to do, but let me show you the charts and graphs here. So you can see from District 4, Looks like they have 1,000 documents. This is for the fiscal year 22 only. We only have 1 year at a time. And what's been spent, how many different categories, how many different commodities. And then each chart here, you can change the results as well. So this one looks at it by commodity, okay? So the commodity code, numbers, and how much was spent on each commodity code. It's also top 10. Right now, you can change it to 15, 20, 25, whatever you want to do, and the chart will change for you. So I'll let that load. So while that's loading, we'll look at the next one over here. This is top district. So if I hadn't picked District 4, this would let me see all the districts and how much they've been spending on procurement stuff. Okay, and let me take this a little bit smaller so we can see the other charts. So now this chart changed to top 15, right? And it looks like business administration versus highway construction type of commodities are going to come in the highest, obviously. What else is in here? You can download the chart to JPEG. You can change it to category if you want instead of the commodity code. So it'll lump all the commodities together into those types. Okay. Let's see. Keep scrolling here while that's loading. This next chart talks about the award amount, right? So this is commodity category, what was spent, professional engineering, heavy construction services, cleaning and janitorial, horticulture, etc., right? And then the one below is the procurement types. So we've got non-DPAC local assistance, construction, DPAC EFA, program encumbrances, non-A&E, master agreements, right-of-way, cow card, etc. Okay. Again, top 10, top 5, change your charts. Over here, you're going to see all of them listed with the total value. Okay. The next chart looks at it by requester. So you can see in your district, if you had one person that's your biggest purchaser for your district, obviously they're probably going to come out the highest with executing more money dollar-wise. Again, it's just going to break it down by the requester and then how much. And then the next one is by object class. So each object code that we choose to use on our purchases will roll up to the object class. So you can see A&E, construction, acquisition, equipment, and those pieces of the pie here as well. And then the last chart here is vendor. So, and you can sort this alphabetically, but you can see the charts, how much has been spent to Town and Windsor, St. Francis Electric, etc. So each piece of the pie. When you download these images, the actual name of these don't come down. So it's probably better to just do a screenshot if you want a print screen versus trying to download the image because the little pie labels don't come out very well. So I would recommend if you're going to want to download, either take a screenshot of the pie chart or just take the entire file to Excel from here. Okay, so that's a little bit about our procurement dashboard. The last thing under the procurement tab is we do have both the certification and the reference. Let's look at the vendor reference first. This will give you all of your address information of the vendor. So if we look at Home Depot, and it'll list out every single addresses known for Home Depot. So if I click on the addresses, it'll give me all of the information, the address and the phone number and the city. Okay, so that's the vendor reference. Vendor active status, you can choose if you only want to look at active customers only. Now, the one thing I will tell you about vendor reference is this has to be updated by DPAC or accounting. So this doesn't always get updated up to date with what is in DGS. And sometimes we know that DGS will update a vendor information. It'll also change its category from a small business to not micro business, whatever. Those changes don't always get to us in a timely manner to update these reports. So just take this with a little grain of salt. And if you're thinking that a vendor is actually more up to date from DGS, then I would reach out to DPAC and ask them to update the file or send in a new vendor 204 and have DMS in accounting update the vendor table. Okay. So that's a little bit about the vendor reference. And the same, like I said, goes with their vendor certification. Are they small business certified or not? Um, you can see small business, micro business, and then the start and end dates. Again, just like I said, DGS probably has the most up to date. But as soon as we know and we can update these tables, then the information will be more accurate. Okay, I think that was it for procurement. I think the last page I want to show you is master agreement. So if you deal with master agreements, you're going to find that report under encumbrances and expenditures, master agreement here. And you can actually, let me do it here, master agreement, sorry. We making a small change to this report. So in our test environment, let me run this and I will show you what this does. So if you're doing a program master agreement and you know how much money is going to go to that contract, you're going to encumber XYZ dollars. You'll see the total document encumbrance to the vendor, Kleinfelder. And then if you click on here, it'll show you all of the task orders that are tied to it. So let's see, CTL, oh, it looks like some vendor payments were made against this task order called 408, here's the contract number, and then CT task order all is the name of that task order for this master agreement. And I believe you can see all of the payments over here to the right and the encumbered amount, how much is getting encumbered out to different project IDs, different contracts, different units, and you'll see that it's a total of 2.1. So as we disencumber from master agreement then increases to the contract task order, and then the task order will pay the invoices for payment. So you can tie back the contract number to the master agreement with the task order number. So if you're familiar with master agreements and you're looking for a way to look at your master agreements, this is a great file. It'll give you additional comments. It'll tell you if there's any subs on this particular contract, and then the beginning and end dates. So feel free to use this report, drill down to get to a little bit more details. You can use your filters to a specific district, a specific project and phase, a task order ID number. You can also search for contract types or specific vendor if you're just looking for one vendor. So it's a pretty simple master agreement report. So feel free to use that one as well. And I think that's it. Feel free to play around with all of the different reports for contracts, encumbrances, expenditures by vendor, encumbrances by vendor, what's charged to a project, to a specific vendor or encumbrance. Lots of different ways to manage your contracts, whether you're a contract manager, a project manager, looking at all these different reports that will help you identify the expenditures and the encumbrances, payments, checks that were cut to the vendor, etc. So I hope you've enjoyed this training today for contracts. Feel free to reach out to us for additional questions by sending an email to the DataLink homepage email account, which is located right here, DataLink Help Desk, and we will set up a meeting if you need additional assistance or shoot you back an email with answering any questions that you may have. Okay, thank you.